Good afternoon, and thank you. And I want to thank Francine and the Next Century Cities team for providing me with the opportunity to share with you what I think is a marvelous opportunity for our nation and my passion. And it's really great when you get to work for and on behalf of what you feel passionate about. And this is my passion, and I'm very fortunate to be able to devote my time and effort to that. And I'd say that we talked about age earlier, and I'll quickly go back, to party line telephones. Nobody here knows about those. Where computer science major was not an option when you were going to school. This wasn't a career option. It's slow scan video conferencing, where the printout of what you did is on, just like you had the heat scan for your first computer printouts. And picture phone. Anybody ever hear of picture phone? That was all in my past. So it's really interesting to be a part of the new generation and this whole move into the fourth industrial revolution. And I feel fortunate to be able to have made it that far. And I would say that we share, and I share, the Next Century Cities notion of being able to realize the full power of truly high-speed, affordable, and accessible broadband, and to speak for those who are not able, as was mentioned earlier, to be in these hallowed halls in D.C., or even at the table for most of our, where most of the discussions take place with respect to broadband. I'd like to say that the Minority Broadband Initiative is an opportunity for NTIA to work with historically black colleges and universities and to have a fuller conversation about broadband opportunities. The administration has made it a priority to expand broadband access, especially in rural communities. And this has been a long-standing focus of NTIA as well. And again, going back historically, back to the days of Larry Irving, whether he's still around or not, but that was when I first came to NTIA, when he was the assistant secretary there. And the discussions then of the digital divide and the support for vulnerable communities through the Technology Opportunities Program. And that is when I began the push of working with historically black colleges to make sure that they were indeed competitive with respect to the grant opportunities afforded by the Technology Opportunities Program, and supported a broad agency announcement which supported funding for technology assessment at historically black colleges, which did what research is supposed to do, and that is inform policy. So it did indeed lead to legislation that was the Minority Serving Institutions Broadband Technology, Digital Technology Act, which was to fund broadband expansion and technology at minority serving institutions. So we are indeed excited about partnering with historically black colleges and universities, which are, John, anchor institutions with indeed a unique history. So we've actually stolen, if you will, the platform of Shelby in forming these as using them and discussing them and working with them as anchor institutions. And they do have a unique history, and they are often located near communities that do not have adequate broadband service. So could we go to the next slide, please? And this is our topic. Next, please. So NTIA in November of 2019 leveraged the networks and locations of historically black colleges and universities to expand broadband coverage by launching this Minority Broadband Initiative. It was launched at Johnson C. Smith University, which is an HBCU in Charlotte, North Carolina, and is also an area for smart cities. So NTIA plans to use its convening authority to better ensure that HBCUs, and like so many other programs and initiatives and things we've talked about, there is no money. So we are about the business of partnering and coordination and collaboration. And that is another reason I think and I look forward to and want to extend the invitation to those of the Next Century Cities community to reach back to us, to reach out to us, and to partner with us as we move this initiative across the rural South. So MBI, the MBI, as we call it, will work with connected HBCUs, or as we like to call them, smart HBCUs. Now, it's not smart HBCUs versus dumb HBCUs, but you will hear more of that later. And we want to promote them as hubs of digital application and innovation. We will convene forums where stakeholders can explore options for leveraging HBCU infrastructure, and we will use that infrastructure, or intend to use that infrastructure, investment as a catalyst for adoption to result in job growth, economic development, and the deployment of advanced mobile technologies in distressed communities. Our focus is the rural South. So what do we mean by smart HBCUs? Modeled on the notion of smart cities, smart communities, connected infrastructure vision. So using smart HBCUs to enable expansion of broadband connectivity. These are anchor institutions and launching pads for digital expansion. Support economic growth and competitiveness. We think producing a new generation of world-class faculty, doing what HBCUs were initially designed and developed to do, and that was the mission of those. I'm really better speed up here. The mission of those institutions to address the next slide, please. And this is getting to the heart of the matter. Next one, please. That if you look here, we are focusing our attention on the Black Belt. HBCUs are split between public-private. 83 of our schools are located in the rural South. And what's the point here? We're covering over 600 counties, and the main point is that they represent the nation's largest contiguous pocket of poverty, where there's high unemployment, poor education, and lack of broadband access. And we think that HBCUs located there can serve as force multipliers for expanding broadband access. Next slide, please. And this will tell you precisely where those schools are located. It's also the case that they are located in something like 43 opportunity zones. So what I like to call this, and any economists in the audience will kill me, but I'm looking at this from the standpoint of HBCUs as an asset class or an asset category for collective impact investing for digital development in the rural South. Is that a mouthful? But that is the overall goal. Next slide, please. And there you have the sort of the scheme or the concept map of what we're talking about. Now what's missing here would be the broadband ecosystem where each HBCU is located. And that would then be the connectivity that's discussed in terms of rural broadband and anchor institutions in terms of the connectivity between the institutions, the school districts, the libraries, the hospitals, as the launching pad for digital inclusion in the anchor communities where they reside. The infrastructure, the state RENs, the electric co-ops. The interesting thing here, if you look at the top box in terms of state 1890 schools, those are HBCU land grant institutions. So if you think of the connection between those schools and the others, each land grant institution, there's one in 19 states, but if you think of those as the spots for diffusion and relationship between the other HBCUs in their state and with the remainder of the ecosystem as represented here, then I think we have an opportunity for the Minority Broadband Initiative, working with HBCUs, to indeed be force multipliers for digital expansion and inclusiveness. So as an antidote against digital destitution and economic entropy, if you will. Thank you for allowing me the time to be with you today.